In pursuit.
In pursuit.
In pursuit.
In pursuit.
In pursuit. In pursuit.
In pursuit.
In pursuit.
In pursuit.
In pursuit.
In pursuit.
In pursuit.
In pursuit.
In pursuit.
Just foolishness.
Yeah.
So the next part of what we're gonna go through today is when resources are taken away, and this is powerful because I think that there's a lot of times in the Bible where you can go to this, and when the resources are taken away, again, what is your feeling? Are you still in a space where it's you've been so constant at leaning on resources and not the source? Like if you're in constant communication with God, whenever stuff like goes and fluctuates, and we're in sales, so like the check is not always the same. But if like I said, that He's gonna provide, He ain't never gonna let you go without or nothing like that. Like you got nothing to worry about. So you're gonna flip to Matthew 6:19 through 21, Habakkuk 3:17 and 18, and then I'm gonna go to Job, the book of Job, man. Job, that book is crazy.
Man,
Is it
that's
Matthew
my
6,
favorite
right?
book.
Yes.
Job is my
19
favorite
through
book.
21 for you.
Job taught me that it don't matter sometimes it don't matter how much you do right. God got a totally different plan for you.
Yeah, and I think that
Right.
it's important too to know that, because we have a comforter now, it's a little bit like the setting of Job. I think it's important for people to understand the setting of Job is like middle of Genesis, Job happens. Like if you know the timetable, if you got a study Bible, you can look at it.
Yeah,
It tells you
yeah,
it's not
yeah.
like way later. And so Job, I think it's important because if you read all the way through Job, you'll see he talks about like the need of somebody to bridge the gap between us and
Yes.
God. He literally is
Yes.
foreshadowing Christ as you continue to read. Like Job, I read Job in this season that I'm in now with the last 8 months with that lens on. Boy, it's so fire.
Yeah.
You got to go back. If you haven't read Job in a while and you're more like reverent before Christ now, you got to go read Job
Job
again.
make you realize like how human God knows you are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, bro, stop acting like you don't have those feelings in your heart. Because,
Mm-hmm.
bro, if you want to look at a man who was like, I'm just gonna say it because I already know you know my heart,
Mm-hmm.
go read Job.
Yeah.
Like Job said it and was like,
Well, that and he not fake about his prayers. I think that's the one
Exactly.
thing I always talk to you guys about is like stop sanitizing your prayers.
Yep.
Job
Yeah.
didn't.
Job
Job
did
was like,
not.
bro, what are you doing? What is
no,
going
did
on?
he get roasted?
Oh yeah.
and
No,
checked
he got,
by God?
he got fired up.
Yes.
Yeah, he was like
But-
he let him know. But I think it was important too though, like to know like, because Job gives you perspective, and this is why I said like it's between Genesis. Job gives you perspective, like you can be honest with God, but also from there all the way, if you go into like starting to Leviticus, like don't just complain. Like
Yeah.
go to God, be honest. Don't sanitize your prayers, but don't sit there and be like, well, woe is me, and then sit on your behind and do nothing and hope somebody else
Sit.
provide for it. Like just
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
don't do that.
We were made to work, not
Yeah.
sit.
Especially as men. Here's what's important. Context for the verse I'm gonna read. Literally, everything just got taken from Job. When I tell you everything got taken from Job. Crazy. But what it said he did, I'm gonna read 20 and 21, not just 21. It said Job stood up and tore his robe in grief because he lost his cattle, his oxen, his kids, his sheep. Everything is gone. This dude is like, when you talk about wealth, this dude was wealthy, right?
Yeah.
Lost everything. So he stood up and tore his robe in grief. Then he shaved his head and fell to the ground in worship. He said, I came naked from my mother's womb, and I will be naked when I leave. The Lord gave me what I had, and the Lord has taken it away. Praise the name of the Lord. In all of this, Job did not sin by blaming God. So when he lost everything, he praised God.
Yeah.
That's
And
tough.
mind you, it wasn't God that took everything. It was Satan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's tough.
Yeah.
Literally, but this is he gives you the example of how do you react. Okay. Matthew 6:19 through 21.
Do not store up treasures here on earth, where the moths eat them and the rust destroys them, and where the thieves break in and steal. Store your treasures in heaven, where the moths and the rust cannot destroy, and the thieves cannot break in and steal. Wherever your treasure is, there will be the desires of your heart. Will also be.
Man, powerful. Habakkuk 3, 17 through 18.
Yeah, and it reads, even though the fig trees have no blossoms and there are no grapes on the vines, even though the olive crop fails and the fields lie empty and barren, even though the flocks die in the fields and the cattle barns are empty, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will be joyful in the God of my salvation.
Mm-hmm.
That fig tree can't catch a break.
Man, listen. Every time, man. Ain't no more leaves on the fig tree,
Every
man. You
time.
can't bear no more fruit.
Yo, that fig tree was like,
gone.
I'm just trying to be here.
Yeah, I'm just trying to do my job, man. You know. But that's important. And I think too, he say that fig tree can't catch a break. I remember learning about why it mattered. It was Pastor Philip Anthony Mitchell, and I'm going to touch on something that he talked about in his most recent sermon later on. But from Pastor Phil, he was talking about the fig tree. Why Jesus cursed the fig tree is because he was hungry and it had leaves on it. From afar, if a fig tree has leaves on it, there should be fruit. Because normally with the fig tree, fruit comes first, then leaves.
Yep.
Okay.
So the leaves came first. He goes to grab fruit. There's no fruit. It's really imagery, and it's showing this is what Jerusalem is. From the outside with the Pharisees and the Sadducees, what you see is, oh, we good. We taking care of things over here. We all in the law. And I've said this over and over again on this podcast. Reading through the Torah gives me grace for the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Now, they took it a little overboard and extreme and made some man-made laws, but it makes me understand. But that was it. So it looks like from the outside that these Pharisees and Sadducees got it all together, but they had no fruit.
Yeah.
That's what he was cursing in that moment.
What I'm receiving from what you just said was, because I didn't know that. I didn't know that the fruit came before the leaves.
Yeah.
Had we given our fruit to something before we needed to?
That's a question.
Because think about it, right? So like the Lord knew the order how things were.
Yep.
Like, if you're looking at it from afar, like you said, obviously he knew there wasn't any. No, and then he was proving a point.
Yeah, facts.
But for us, looking at it in that perspective, it's like that fruit was taken away before the Lord was able to come get it.
Yep.
Like that fruit of your time, that fruit of the effort that you give, the fruit, and insert whatever for fruit.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Are you just a tree with no fruit, fully blossoming leaves? Did you give your fruit to someone else beforehand?
Yeah.
Dang.
And I think that comes into my fruit that I'm going to give. I need to first make sure that my wife gets the fruit first.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, understanding the point of this pod, right, is like understanding the source and not the resource, right, comes into play for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I honor the time that I get to spend with my wife because it's just the two of us.
Right.
Right. And then we get really busy doing a bunch of other stuff and like life happens. If I'm spending too much time giving away of my fruit to somebody else, my work or other people, by the time that I get home, I'm not going to have any fruit to give her.
Yeah.
Can you touch on that too? Because so you went through a season, you were talking about this, and this comes spinning off of this. You went through a season where your wife was making more than you.
Yeah.
Right. And I know what that does as a man and image and stuff like that. And you kind of like, and then, if there's ever like, there could be some arguments and to be like, it can even get thrown in your face. Yeah. It did for me at one point. Right. And maybe your wife was a little more gracious in that season and that's okay if she was. But I wonder now, like, even though you've been through that before, you're now in a spot where you refuse to do overtime. Like you'll do it if like somebody's on the phone and like you got to keep going.
Yeah, I'll do the incidental overtime.
Yeah,
which is
but
what
like
T-Mobile calls it.
You'll never intentionally stay past 5 o'clock. What has allowed you to go from a space where you were once you didn't feel like enough, you weren't providing, you weren't doing any of that stuff, to now you won't even start to even go into an inkling of that? What specifically would you say has allowed you to step into a season where you're like, no, this is this, my work is done at this time, and I'm going on to this over here?
I think understanding the thing that I asked God for first. So put me in a place where I can serve you and my need be met. If I go above and beyond, and what I mean above and beyond, not like doing my job during my regular scheduled hours. What I mean by that is taking on additional tasks that one, the Lord didn't give me. Two, I didn't ask him for. I'm going against the very thing that I asked him for. It's kind of like how Kind of like when the prophet Samuel told Saul, "Wait, I'm gonna go do the sacrifice for you," and Saul did it on his own.
Yeah.
So what happened as a result, right? Like he got punished. Like he ended up losing his anointing. Right? I don't want to lose what the Lord has given me because I'm taking on more than what he needs me to do in that moment. Like if he's going to put me in a season where like, hey, look, you're going to have to work a little bit longer. He's going to fix everything so that it doesn't impact the things that I asked him for. My time with my wife, my time to be able to serve him properly,
Yeah.
the way that he deserves, versus just at a halfway.
That makes sense. That's fine. I don't know if y'all caught that. We told this man, hey, you know, what are you doing to not keep going overtime? So remember, he said, whatever you ask God for, make sure you're obedient in that time with whatever it is that you're asking for. I
Yeah.
love that. That's fantastic.
And the thing about the wife, you touched on it a couple of pods ago. You have a praying wife.
Man, what? Yes,
Well,
I'm
yeah.
thankful for that, boy.
So like my wife, like I always tell her, babe, give yourself more grace than what you do.
Mm-hmm.
This woman of God will spend time with the Lord, and like I'll come upstairs, like, are you good? Because she's obviously been crying. I was like, are you good? Are you good? Like, and his husband's like, how often do you ask your wife, are you good? And it's just to make sure that she's all right. And it's like, it becomes a habit. But she spends time in her prayer closet to where like the Lord will show her like, this is what I'm going to do in you in this season, or this is what this next season looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So if the funds aren't where they need to be, like for example, from me out earning her, all of the needs are met.
Mm-hmm.
Like our lights don't get cut off, like our cell phones don't get cut off, our cars are paid on time. Like the things that we need are compensated for. Like there isn't an extra. Like do we splurge once a year? Yeah. We get ourselves one good gift a year, and that's around the anniversary.
What's up? I need to be on that.
Yeah. like there'll be micro gifts. Like I'll admit, like I have a subscription service to Books, the flowers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So she'll get monthly deliveries at the job.
Nice.
Nice.
Okay.
She goes like, she told me like, I'm supposed to get flowers this week, huh? I was like, yeah, I got the email already. You're supposed to get flowers. Like, what am I getting? You'll see.
Yeah, that's dope. That's good, man. I mean,
Get
and
some
that's
tulips. You might get some roses.
You might get
I
some
don't know.
the white roses that came in were really nice.
yeah, man. It's little things like that. Like, and I told JP, we was like, at work, I get my flowers from Kroger. You know what I'm saying? I go
On the way.
man, you gotta go over there, get them. And you can get some of the best ones. You go
Yeah.
in there, you get your little bouquet for $30.
Yeah, nice.
$30,
nice.
real
Okay.
nice, real nice. And it's crazy because don't ever let your wife tell you she's not a flower girl. Listen,
They're a specific type of flower girl. I
Yes,
guarantee you they
yes.
told you before.
yeah, and they'll be like, "Oh no, babe, it's no big deal. You ain't got to give me no flowers." Now she gonna tell you that, and if you listen, you a fool. And I'm just telling you. Listen, I'm
Working and falling.
yeah. listen,
Falling.
listen. That vase over there stay full of flowers. If I can help, and listen, I ain't look. If nothing else, we make sure we got the flowers in that vase,
Yo,
man.
Sam's Club got great deals on flowers.
That's
Just
facts.
throwing
too.
that out there.
Yeah, Sam's
And they're
Club.
really good flowers too. They have a really good smell. And if I can ever just find the one that she really likes, I'll end up buying it for her. Like my wife's favorite flower is a peony.
Wow.
Man,
that's
that's
pretty
exotic. I don't
It's
even know
oddly
what that
specific,
is.
right?
I don't even know what that is.
Yo, I'm telling you, like your wife has,
For real though.
like she's mentioned it at one point. Like she mentioned it like the week of our wedding or like leading up to the wedding. I was like, yeah, like I'm trying to get a bouquet made of peonies. And then I had like, all right, cool. I brushed it off. I didn't think anything of it.
Okay.
And then she was like, what's my favorite flower? I was like, peonies? Well, it was a shot in the dark.
Maybe it's this one.
Yeah.
I think this is good too. How should a man or woman of God respond when resources dry up?
That's definitely time to lean in harder, for sure. And I think in that season too, that's the time to look around and reset your gratitude as well. And then also just look around and see like in that time, what is God trying to show me in this season? You know, was I, putting him to the side more than what I, than what I was doing? Did I get a little too comfortable? Was I neglecting, my wife, my kids? Was I putting too much work in the office? So I think in that season, that is the best season or the best time to start to, one, lean into God, but then two, also, realign yourself. Look at what, how did we get to this point, or
Yeah.
what is that God is trying to show me in this season, and then move forward from there. But
Yeah.
definitely lean. You got to lean harder for sure.
Fall on your face.
Fall on your
Yeah,
face.
fall in the face.
Fall
Pull a
on your
David.
face.
Yeah.
In pursuit.
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 In pursuit.